Hi, this is Linda Clayton, and I am very pleased today to welcome my guest, Suzanne Patrick Lawrence. She is President and CEO of Advisor Business Solutions. Suzanne is the person to go to if you need help in succession planning, in transitioning to from a broker-dealer to buying your own practice. If you are looking to buy or sell a practice, Suzanne is an expert in those areas. In addition, as a financial planner herself, she has been 3-time past president of the Financial Planning Association San Gabriel Valley chapter, and she has clients throughout the United States. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Today, we are here to talk about succession planning, and I'd like to know, why do we need a succession plan, particularly if you're just starting a business?
Well, for the most part, succession planning is a very big piece of a business owner's plan overall. It's important, particularly with the financial advisor sector, to be able to understand that you've been in business for 20 or 30 years, and now you're looking at what's one of the biggest, most important components of my business, which is clients. You have, at this point, hundreds of clients with decades of relationships, and the clients need to have the knowledge and the confidence and the trust that business will continue with relationships with whoever or whatever the next business entity is going to be to take over the business. So having a succession plan is really important to ensure that clients have confidence and they have some understanding of how things will continue in the future.
So let's say I'm not ready to retire, and that's the last thing I'm thinking about right now. How is a succession plan different from a continuity plan?
Succession plans have a structure which allows for a business owner to be able to determine what it is that they would like to do as far as the length of time they want to continue in business, if they want to continue for a few more years, or if they would like to maybe phase out of the business in a shorter time period, and they work out firm terms of the agreement, terms of the sale, terms of how long, what the actual requirements are for doing a succession, and it's very clear, defined, and structured. A continuity plan helps to guide the advisor with having a backup. If something happens to the business owner, there is someone identified who can help the business to continue if something happens to them. Health, unforeseen situation, they know that the business will continue. The clients will be contacted and the business will be able to continue to move forward. So it's more of a way to protect the business, to make sure that the doors stay open, whereas the succession plan is actually a defined structure and term to exit the business.
So if I was starting my business now, what kind of things do I need to do so that when it's time to identify a successor, I have the details in place that you would need to structure that sale or whatever I might be doing with my business?
Well, I think if you're starting a business, first and foremost, you need to have a business plan. You want to make sure you have a roadmap for what your plan is to grow the business, as well as what are some of the things that you want to make sure are in place for the future of the business to be able to continue. So you want to think about how long out do you want to be in business? What is sort of your end game? And if you see your business going on for 10 or 20 years or so, then what would you like to do as far as thinking about a successor? Do you want to hire someone who can be there for the next 10 years, and that way they learn the business and they can be a part of the growth, and they can learn who the clients are, and the clients can have trust in that other younger person, and you basically tailor them to be a successor? Or do you think that maybe you would much rather wait until another 10 years or so goes by, have some kind of continuity agreement in place, but you also want to maybe start to pursue what are my options for the next 5 or 10 years, and then start working out a succession plan at that point?
So Suzanne, if you have a successor in mind, do you typically recommend that they introduce them to the clients and work with them over a period, or do you recommend that they complete the sale and make a clean break? How do you typically recommend people to handle that?
Usually it's a much more easier transition for clients to have some contact with the successor more than once and more than just a very short time period. So if someone is thinking about bringing a successor in to their business to firm up their future, I would certainly think that there's part of the terms of the agreement that has an introduction to the clients. How is that going to happen? Let's map out a strategy. What's a good time frame to do it? How do we want to do it? There's different ways of bringing a successor's introduction to the clients.
What are the different ways that an advisor that is going to step away from the practice, how are they compensated? Is it just a complete buyout, or is it structured over time? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
So there are different ways that financial advisors can structure a succession plan with the terms that they financially see are appropriate, as well as the time frame. So for the most part, if people are looking at continuing to stay in the business, staying active and working, they can work out either a agreement that they can share revenue because they're still working, and the successor can have a split with the seller, basically, and they can work side by side. They can decide who's doing what. They can figure out how to work with clients together, and that way they're working with some shared interest and shared effort to still help the business to grow while the seller is working his or her way out of the business. The other possible way is to consider having a payment plan, like an installment plan, and have payments made over a certain time period so that the successor is making installment payments over a certain amount of years, and that way the seller is considering if they want to stay in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, or 6 months, they have an agreed upon payment plan.
So what kind of things are important in order to get the best value out of your practice? What do they look for when you're trying to sell your business or promote somebody from within? What kind of things, Suzanne, do you see that they look for is identifying the right practice to inherit or buy?
So as far as we're mostly, just to clarify your question, we're mostly referring to what impacts the value of a practice.
That's right.
Okay. So there are certainly a few aspects to making a practice more attractive as far as helping people to see why they should maybe look at purchasing that practice as opposed to someone else's. I'll give you 3 quick examples. First example is, how long have the clients been in the business, have been with the firm? Is it a new client relationship? A lot of clients who may have been with the firm over the last 10 years or 20 years, well, that's going to be much more attractive because there's much more loyalty to the firm's advisor than if they've only been there for a couple of years. So the loyalty helps to be part of what I like to call the sticky factor. Will the clients stay if a new buyer comes into the picture? Another thing to look at are the assets that the firm has built up. So if a firm has more assets under management, then that's going to be more desirable to increase the value of the practice, and how the assets are invested will also determine how much more it will bring up the value of the practice. There's a term called recurring and non-recurring revenue. The recurring revenue are assets that are charged on a fee basis. So every month or every quarter, really, there is a fee that's charged to the clients who have assets with the firm. That's going to be more appealing to someone who wants to buy that practice. Other firms have what's called non-recurring fees, which means that they're more commission-based. The client has to reach out and talk to, the advisor has to reach out and talk to the client and get them to invest the money, and therefore it's a different way of generating income. So if a buyer is looking at that type of practice, it's not going to be as attractive because they have to either work within the same type of structure or transition over to a recurring fee advisory practice. And then the third piece is, how well is the technology that the firm is using? Because now technology is a very, very big piece of helping practices grow. Do they have a website? Do they use a CRM, which is a customer relationship management software, where they capture all of the client's name and activity and notes, and how well is everything tracked so that you can see how well the firm is doing, who are your best clients, who are smaller clients, where are the opportunities within the practice. The more information that's organized using technology, the more attractive that's going to help to increase the attractiveness of the firm.
If the particular specialty of the practice is very focused in one area, is that something that you feel is beneficial to sell the practice, or is it more beneficial if it's very general and clients are just all over?
Having different styles of running your practice is very much front and center, a big thing to consider. And that is because there is a lot of competition with a lot of financial advisor practices. So if you are what's considered a generalist, that means that you basically have a less competitive edge to other advisory firms that may be larger in size or larger in scale, have more people on their team, have more ways to attract people to go to their firm. If you have more of a narrow focus on who are your clients and what area do you want to specialize in, that is called more of a niche market. So your niche could be working with doctors, working with dentists, working with nurses, working with engineers, working with women in transition, working with nonprofits, whatever your area that you can identify is a good area of interest for you to delve deeper into is going to help you to have more of a specialized area. So that's going to give you a competitive edge.
So if somebody was looking to find a successor right now, where would they get started? What do they do?
Well, the first thing, if they are thinking of looking for a successor, I would suggest is what is it that is important to the person? What are their goals in finding a successor? Is it to look for someone who is very much like themselves? Sometimes what happens is when you've been in business for a long time, and this is more so for financial advisors who are solo advisors. They've been working for themselves, maybe there's a partner, but for the most part, a lot of times when people are looking at, I need to bring in a successor, you have to really decide what's more important to you. Do you want to look for someone to bring into the firm, or do you want to consider going to a larger firm that can acquire your practice? And that's really the first starting point, because that will help you to then decide what direction is the right direction to go to. Once you make that next assessment, I'll call it, then what you can do is look at different types of associations that are for the financial planning industry, that has other advisors or firms that also are members who may be interested in working with someone who is looking for a successor. And those are typically large associations, national ones like the Financial Planning Association. It could be other financial institute organizations that are regional, and there's also industry associations that may be specific to the niche that you are in.
This has been really valuable, Suzanne. I'd love to thank you for taking the time to share your expertise with all of us.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for being here.
Thank you very much, Linda. It's been a pleasure.